Welcome to Association Chat, an online discussion where we warm ourselves by the virtual fire of the day, welcoming thought leaders and trailblazers alike to join up in this online home for the community. I'm the host of Association Chat, KiKi L'Italien, and today we are talking about everyone's favorite topic, the money, the moolah, the cheddar, the making it rain, whatever you want to call it. Specifically, though, we are talking about ASAE's Research Foundation's Giving Tuesday campaign, which kicked off in November and runs through December 3rd. December 3rd, y'all. If you're hearing this, that means we got to get on it if you haven't already. With us today is the chair of the foundation's development committee, Sheri Singer. Now, Sheri is the president of Singer Communications, where she helps associations solve their public relations, marketing, and communications challenges. She is also the founder of the Association Exchange, and that's a free lunch and learn program for association executives. If you're in the DC area and you are not taking advantage of this, you must look in that metro area, get involved with Sheri and the Association Exchange. I promise you it'll be worth your time. Now, she is a busy lady, but today she is here to talk to us about Giving Tuesday and all of the marketing tips, tricks, tools that we can learn from it. So with that, let me bring Sheri to the stage. Sheri, yay, it's so good to see you.
So good to see you too, KiKi, and belated happy birthday. I understand your birthday was yesterday.
Yes.
Wish KiKi a happy birthday.
Thank you. I mean, everyone, I will accept your birthday wishes throughout the rest of November into December. You know, really, I just want to let you know it's okay to wish me a happy birthday at any time. Thank you very much, Sheri. So there is so much that is going on with Giving Tuesday. A lot of people are giving already. They're thinking about their usual places that they like to give, but you have an interesting story about this. And so let's start at the very beginning. For anyone who doesn't know, what is it that the development committee does? Like what does the development committee do? Because we don't maybe always hear about all of the different projects and different things that you all are involved in. So what's it all about?
So first of all, I wanted to say thank you for having me, KiKi. I really appreciate it. The foundation provides associations with resources. And so that's one thing that General Foundation does. And it also, there are three pillars of the foundation. So the first one is the development committee. We raise money. I like to say we go out to everybody with our hands outraised.
It's like,
and people are starting to run away from me now.
Right.
Yes, we see her coming. We're going to run the opposite direction. There's also a research committee, and they do a lot of the polls, if any of you have been involved with that in the past. And then there's the Foresight Works Committee. And the Foresight Works Committee actually produces the drivers of change, those white papers and position papers. I think there's more than 125 of them this year. And I know that this year they've added a lot of those drivers of change position papers that have to do with AI. And it's like the second iteration of AI, the policies around AI, the ethics around AI. And the foundation also gives, and it's been developing these programs over the last couple of years with a lot of rigor, I would say. They give away a lot of scholarships and grants to help association executives who might not otherwise be able to get their CAE, go to the annual meeting, et cetera, et cetera. So that's basically what the foundation does. And any of us who are association executives, we've used ASAE's foundation resources in the past. I bet everyone listening to this has used drivers of change, for example, or just, you know, some statistics about associations. And I was doing something and I was like, oh, I didn't even know ASAE had this, you know, and it was really helpful to what I was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the stuff that it makes it when you are when you belong to an association. Like I have been a long time member of ASAE, and that's the sort of stuff that I'm like, yeah, I'm really glad that this is available. These things are available to us in our profession, and then also to our colleagues that are out there. And you know, maybe they're just getting started and they need a little help to be able to go to the ASAE annual meeting. But it's that kind of stuff that you just love to be a part of. But what I'm curious, What made you get involved? Like, what made you decide to why did you decide to join? Why did you decide to volunteer?
I know this is just such an odd story. So, I was looking for a volunteer. I've served on the communications section council, which was kind of a heavy lift. I mean, they met monthly, and then we submitted sessions to all of the ASAE conferences. It was a fairly heavy lift. And
Mhm.
then after that, I got involved with the healthcare association because a lot of my clients are healthcare associations. Actually, almost 25% of ASAE members are either science or healthcare.
Is
Um,
that a fact?
yeah,
I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
yeah. And so I got involved with the healthcare association because I had so many healthcare clients. And then I became the chair of that. So I don't know how many people realize this, but when you become the chair, it's a 6-year commitment. So I took a
Wow.
couple years off, and then like a couple years ago, I was looking around for another opportunity. And I thought, I'd like to do something different where I could use my marketing communication skills, but maybe not in the way, it was obvious to me to be on the communication section. Healthcare was somewhat obvious. Maybe use them in a way that's not so obvious. And lo and
Mhm.
behold, it was so funny because the development committee was soliciting people with marketing communications background. And I thought, why would the development committee be
Yeah.
searching? Like, couldn't figure it out. It took me a minute. And I was like, oh, they want better communication with people to be able to get more donors. I mean, that obviously was the piece. And I was able, in the first year I was on the committee, I think that was 2022, I was able to actually use, offer some of those Marcom skills to the committee in the 2022 and 2023 appeals, not just Giving Tuesday. I mean, really, the development committee has 2 appeals a year. So that's why Giving Tuesday has all of our focus, because our other appeal during the year is the ASAE Gala. And
Oh,
because
okay.
the gala, the classic, known as the classic, almost always sells out at the annual meeting. They have it in such spectacular places. Like last year, it was in the Rock
Mhm.
and Roll Hall of Fame. Who's not going to go, right?
Right.
So they sell out. So we don't
Yeah.
have to really sell that. That we know that's going to sell itself. What we want to do is get people to donate to Giving Tuesday. And by the way, if you've already donated to Giving Tuesday, a lot of people don't know this. It's a completely separate campaign from any of the other ASAE campaigns that somebody may have donated to. So, and it's a much lighter lift. This is not what they're asking for in an annual giving campaign. Um, Online, the donations start at $25. We'd be very happy to have somebody donate $10. That would be awesome. And last year, 84% of our donations were under $100.
Wow. Wow. But it adds up, right? That
Yeah.
all adds up. So 84%. That's amazing. I am, by the way, if you are watching this live or listening to it live, I just put up the link to the foundation on asaecenter.org for donating, right? If you want to donate to Giving Tuesday, you're going to hear a little bit more about it as we're talking, but I want everyone to get a chance to go ahead and donate and be a part of that also. In YouTube, if you look over in the chat, you should be able to click on that link over there. And that will also take you to that page. If you're listening to this later, look for that link in the show notes. Okay. So, since we're talking about Giving Tuesday, what is Giving Tuesday? What's the history behind it? And why is it important for associations?
Well, Kiki, knowing that I was coming here to talk about this today, I actually looked up the history because I didn't even know myself. And I thought it went back further than it actually does. It was
Huh.
started by a gentleman by the name of Henry Timms. He was somebody who was on the board at the 92nd Y in New York City. And in 2012 was the first Giving Tuesday. Yeah, I know. I was surprised
Really?
because we've come to think of it as, an ongoing long campaign, but actually it only started in 2012. So,
Huh.
12 years ago or so. And it started as a global generosity movement that unleashed the power of people and organizations to transform communities. And isn't that what the association community is all about?
Oh,
Each
yeah.
of us are kind of working to transform our own communities. And I thought that was really interesting how it connects back to ASAE and the association community in general.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that that's really kind of perfect. And, it's like, chocolate and peanut butter. It was like it was meant to be. So here we are. We're nearing the end of the year, and of course, there are 1,000,001 asks, right?
Right.
Everybody's asking for something, and the hands that are out when you're talking about the development committee, it's like hands out. But there is a good reason for people to be thinking about going ahead and continuing to donate, and to think about what they're doing for ASAE, because like the ASAE Foundation and the work that it does, it's pretty significant. So why do you say that people should consider giving on Giving Tuesday when there are so many end of the year appeals for donations?
Well, I will be the first one to admit I give to ASAE, I give to the foundation, but I also give to some other personal organizations, right? As we all do. This year, I'm going to give to Planned Parenthood. I always give to the American Heart Association. My dad passed away from heart disease. So those are personal things. But my career is super personal to me, as it is to all of us, and especially those people who have committed to be an association executive for the remainder of their career. You're really supporting the future of associations. And the development committee itself raises awareness of the value of the association foundation work. We talked a little bit about that before, and supports the foundation work. And then we're a stewardship of donors. So we're keeping those donors and the people that donate to ASAE close to our hearts. You know, we know this is our tried and true group of people who are really committed to the association community, and we need them, right? We need them as association executives to continue the dynamic community that we have. I probably have worked with over 100 associations in the course of my career, both on staff and as a consultant. And it never ceases to amaze me how many people use the Higher Logic platform as a collaborative kind of community engagement. But in my experience, ASAE's collaborative community platform is so much more active than most associations. Oh my goodness. We have more than 150 communities. Those communities that are really active, and there's probably maybe 20 or 30 that are really active, they're posting, you see 5-10 posts a day from those communities. And how lucky are we to be in a community like that? And the foundation supports all of that, you know, obtaining your CAE, the Ready Me program, the, you know, Drivers of Change, CAE scholarships, scholarships to the annual meeting, and on and on. We need you, association executives, to help us continue the good work of associations.
Right. And so it goes directly into helping foster a more vibrant community and all of these things that we really have come to appreciate so much, that a lot of people put the most value in. I mean, I'll say for myself, like, I really appreciate having a platform where there is a way to be able to connect. Of course, association chat is amazing, but can you ever get enough of being able to connect with your peers and with your colleagues, and even with people that you haven't met yet, especially with people you haven't met yet, in order to sort of expand your knowledge and continue to be able to connect with people? I mean, that is really the value of having membership. And I think I love being able to do that and connect with people. And I am a lurker. I'm more of a lurker, where I'm able to like glean so much in. But, you know, you came on here, and I'm going to tell a little bit of I hope you don't mind. I'm going to tell a little bit of a story of you coming on. So Sheri was really wanting to make sure that we got this message out, and that she came on here to talk about this, because your campaign, Sheri, the work that you guys did last year was so successful that now you feel like the pressure is on to like beat and surpass what you did last year. So I want to talk a little bit about last year's campaign and, you know, what went into making it so successful. So many of the association executives out there are working for associations where you all are trying to do something very similar, or you have fundraising efforts, and you know how hard it can be. What made this so successful?
Well, I have to put on my Marcom hat back on because we used antiquated methods to be able to reach out to people.
Really?
On last year's committee, and I presented this at ASAE's annual meeting in a session. It was a 20-minute express session. And I talked about this. And the session was called It Takes a Village. That's why I was mentioning it. We really wanted to use peer-to-peer outreach. So it was member to member, that one-to-one kind of personalization. And unfortunately, last year on the committee, even though we had such a successful campaign, we literally wound up with 6 people on the committee, which is a relatively small committee given ASAE's size and whatever. And but we leveraged those 6 people, and ASAE asked us to make, I don't know, 500, send out 500 emails. So everybody did that. But then we went back, and in addition to leveraging that, we also leveraged our own personal networks. And I have a couple really funny stories. So I initially went to my email and I sent out all my emails to everybody who was a LinkedIn person, you know, LinkedIn to me by email. Then I went to LinkedIn and I posted a couple general comments. And then I said, I'm going to go through my phone, and I counted. I had 72 ASAE connections in my phone, people I had presented with, you know, just people I knew, past clients. And I said, I'm going to call these people because these are my closest connections. And let's be honest, how many phone calls do you get every day, right? So I thought, I'm going to start. So I started with the A's, my connections, my contacts are in alpha order. I called Al Rickard. He said, I'm going to give because you asked me to give. And I was like, yes, this is so easy.
I love Al.
Keep going.
Al, yeah, he's so great.
He's on the committee now, by the way.
Oh,
anyway,
makes
so
sense,
and then the next person I called was a guy named Adam Hostetter, who's a friend of mine. He owns a company called Fuse Search, and he's another consultant. And I did actually get him to give a pretty big donation by saying, you know, how much money do you think you make off associations? And I thought he wasn't going to answer, you know, and he didn't answer. And I said, all right, let's just suppose you make $100,000. If you give 1%, that would be $1,000, and that would be awesome. So that is what he gave. And actually I had to match his contribution at that point because he had given more than me. And I was like, oh no, now I got to match it. The third person I called was Cameron. I think her last name is it Udis?
Oh,
Cameron.
yeah.
And I hadn't talked to her in a while, so she wanted to talk. So I was on the phone for 45 minutes, and I said, "You know what? I can't do that. I can't. If I do this, Giving Tuesday is going to be over, and I'm never going to get through the phone." So I wound up texting, and I think texting is a fine way to communicate. I have done LinkedIn individual posts this year. I've done texting. I've done email. I think any of the methods that you want to use to reach your members is great. And I would also say this is not just confined to fundraising. If you're trying to get people to come to increase your Capitol Hill, you know, people that come to your Capitol Hill Day or membership, you know, just increase your members. That one-to-one personalization, the more market research I've done for clients, the more effective I've seen that be. And again, I really encourage you, texting is great, but if you have the time to make those phone calls, because how many phone calls do you get? And if you really have the time, I'd send a mailer. Because again, how many pieces of mail do you get? And if you get a card, you're likely to open it. I still only get 3-4 pieces of mail a day.
Oh, me too. And especially now, I mean, of course, I'm biased because I Association Chat, the latest issue of the magazine, that's a print magazine quarterly, right? It's landing in mailboxes. And so it was just released, the digital version just released last week. Thank you. But it was really important to me to have this print version for exactly that reason. We just don't get very much mail anymore. And to me, at one point, we used to, right? We used to get a lot of things. Now we don't even, I mean, I just barely get anything. And so it does stand out when you get something in the mail. So I think the postcards are a great idea.
And I also think you can use all of these techniques and tips, as I said, not just for fundraising. If you're a membership person or you're working in another area, membership, events, even government relations. I used it for the Renal Physicians Association. And it was ironic because I was working with them and I said, what about going peer to peer? Because doctors don't really listen to anybody but other doctors. And she said, oh, I think it's too late. I said, no, I can throw this together in a week. We can do this. And we set up a call. I think we had 10 or 12 doctors on, and we trained them on how to message and what to say. We gave them a script to contact their peers. And at the end of the training, I was so surprised, KiKi, the doctors were saying, well, I only have 10 people to reach out to. I could definitely do like 20 or 25. And we were like, oh my goodness, that's incredible. Yes, we will give you more names, you know. And we doubled the number of people that went to their Capitol Hill Day.
Wow. Wow. See, so effective. And so what were the numbers behind the Giving Tuesday campaign last year for 2023? Because you were telling me some pretty impressive figures before, and I just think like when you're talking about what you're trying to beat for this year, I mean, the bar is set pretty high now.
I know, you don't have to tell me when we ended last year's campaign. And by the way, the campaign goes until December 31st. It goes through the end of
Okay.
December.
December
Actual Giving
31st.
Tuesday is Tuesday, December 3rd. So it's next week, but you can give until the end of the year, and you just don't,
Right.
you know, just mark it as Giving Tuesday and not the annual campaign. So last year, like I mentioned, we had 6 people on the committee. So our reach wasn't really that long. And yet we went from 80 to 196 donors. And
Wow.
what I think is really impressive about that number, it was 49 first-time donors. And so now
Wow.
that was, to me, that was a more impressive number. That they were almost 50 first-time donors. And then we raised in 2023, I'm sorry, 2022, get the years mixed up because now it's 2024. We raised $17,000. But then in 2023, last year, we did 31.
Huh.
So although the bar is not that high this year, higher than the 31, I personally would like to go to 40 with this year's campaign, 40,000. I mean, that's reasonable to be able, and we added people onto our committee.
Okay, so you've added the people, and I wanted to ask about that because to what do you attribute the success in getting so many first-time donors? Because that's a big hurdle, right?
Yeah, I think it's a really big hurdle. And I really truly believe it was that personalization.
Mm-hmm.
I was really surprised. I thought there would be a lot of pushback because last year, I think was my first year of doing it. And on, you know, first year to do Giving Tuesday. And I was really surprised at how many people just wrote back to me and said, done.
Wow.
Right. Because they were people who were friends of mine. So they were doing it again. Just this week, I was on the phone with a client and I said, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you I'm chair of the development committee and I'm going to have to ask you to give to Giving Tuesday. She literally said, I'm going to give because you asked me.
Wow.
So
I mean, that's the power. But
ahead.
we've learned that, you know, I remember speaking of more research has been done, you know, through ASAE Foundation. I remember in, what was it, the Decision to Give, one of those, or the Decision to Volunteer. And it was the power of the direct ask, that was the best, most effective way that you can get, you know, someone to do something is to ask them. And so how powerful is that for us to just be able to reach out and say, hi, you know, like it would be really great if you did this. I mean, all they can say is no, right? What's the worst? And so the best, though, is that you're going to have those people that say, yeah, absolutely, sure, no problem. So
I think the ask is a really big thing. And that I would say that's like my lesson number 1, make the ask and don't be afraid to make the ask because you're not making the ask on your behalf. You're making it on behalf of even in a membership role or in an activity role, the member is making a member to member ask on behalf of the association, not for their own good. So I think that's something that's really important to remember. And then the other tip that I would highly recommend as a Marcom person is to have some messaging that you can rely on to make that ask so that everyone is kind of on the same page, making the same kind of ask. What I do is I say, it was good to see you at XYZ event last month, or it was good to run into it annual, or so there's some kind of personal connection in that first line and then make the ask. And in today's environment, it used to be that in fundraising and even in membership, you would tell people why you need the funds, right? You'd have this like hierarchy down the line. And at the end, you'd ask them for money to support your cause. You don't do that way anymore because people aren't reading to the bottom of the email. You
Right.
have to make the ask at the very front end. I'm asking. So what my email said this year was, I'm writing to, hope you're well. And then if I ran into them or saw them, good to see you at the leaders retreat last week, or good to see you at ASAE annual, or whatever it was. Glad you were on the last association exchange, webinar. And then I said, I'm writing to you today with my hat on as the chair of ASAE's development committee, and then right into the ask. No dilly-dallying
Yeah.
around it.
Yeah. I mean, I have to agree. I think people, we have so many different, we're just pulled in so many different directions. And it's just like, get to the point. I need to know. And all of our communication is sort of set up that way now. So that like our brains are being trained to just, swipe and scroll and do all the things where it's like, tell me really quickly what this is about. And, because I'm moving on really fast. And so if you don't get to it, then you may never, ever get that message across. So I think that's really great advice. I know that you had talked about several lessons that you and your team learned as you were going through and working on this campaign and witnessing the results. So what are some of the other lessons that you maybe pulled from this experience, and then also your other experiences working with your Marcom hat on and with the different clients, seeing what works for fundraising?
First of all, I think you have to leverage your networks. And I mentioned this to you at the, before we went live on air. Last year we had 6 people, and we realized that really wasn't enough people to be able to get into every one of the ASAE communities, because if you look at Collaborate, there's over 150 communities on Collaborate, I'm pretty sure. And I think the number is even higher than that, but I'm trying to be somewhat conservative. So if you look at those various communities, where we need a fellow so they can reach out to the other fellows. We need a CEO so they can reach out to other CEOs. We need a DELP scholar so they can reach out to other DELP scholars. We need a young professional so they can reach out to other young professionals. People want to be reached out to, people that kind of mimic or are in their personal networks. And so that was one thing that we did this year, is we added like another 8 people onto our committee, and we were very, very intentional about the way we did that. We wanted to get, a very diverse group of people, and I think that's what we were able to achieve. The other thing is, as I mentioned before, do the ask. I have a kind of funny story about asking. So I am the co-founder of Association Exchange, and it's a national virtual webinar, much like Association Chat is. And so for January, we always try to have a leadership topic. And I usually take January because nobody else wants to work on it during the holidays. Oh, well. And so I thought, well, who could we get to talk about leadership, 2025 and beyond in the association community? And I said, well, why not get the CEO of ASAE? So I just made the ask, right? And my colleagues are like, we're never going to get her. I don't know why, And she said yes. So that's who we're having as our January guest. So the ask is really, really important. If you don't do it, if you don't do the worst somebody can say, as you pointed out before, is no.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I mean, you don't get if you don't ask. And so, put the ask out there and see what happens.
And then the other lesson that we learned is, I learned personally, as I shared with you, my story about contacting people via phone, is email and text is the best.
Yeah.
So the phone, and if you have 3 or 4 people that you want to call, that's fine, but limit it, because you could wind up on a phone call for a half hour, 45 minutes with someone, and that's awesome. You get to catch up, but it's not going to help you go through the list. It does take more time. I mean, the advantage is nobody gets calls anymore. Everybody gets texts and emails, so very few calls. So you are going to reach those people probably in a way that they're not used to being reached, just like mail and whatever. But I think texting them has the same effect, and it's more personal than email, but it's a quicker, way to reach them than going through your phone list and calling.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I think that for me, I've also, there are a number of different, if you follow any of these, like, save your time and how you can use time boxing and stuff like that. There are a lot of productivity gurus out there that are talking about, turning your phone off unless you have like VIP people that you can set your phones now to tell you if certain people are calling and letting those calls through. but to protect your time, so many people, and I know not everybody can do this, but so many people are being told, like, that person, anyone else can leave a voicemail, but to protect your time and to be able to focus on what you're doing, that's a strategy. And because of that, it means that some of those phone calls may become voicemails, right? And they may not actually go through. So yet another reason to have another touch point, another channel, so that you can reach those people with your ask and your touching base. Yes.
And then also, I think that personalization, that first line that connects you to that individual that says, we talked at XYZ, at ASAE's foundation reception. I saw you at the leaders retreat. We talked at ASAE annual, or it was so good to talk to you, a few months ago about what you're up to, catch up. However you want to start that out, I think that also makes a big difference, because you're immediately connecting yourself with the other person. You're not asking them to do it. I will tell you, it's kind of funny. One of the things that I have gotten out of this is I've been posting all these personalized notes to LinkedIn contacts.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed, like last week, I've been spending like a couple hours a night doing it. And I really do feel the heat right now. I'm not kidding.
You're like, oh, am I going to hit this?
But anyway, so, and I noticed that my views for my LinkedIn profile went up, and I was kind of like, all I've been doing is sending out. And then I realized some of these people I may not have connected with in the last year or two. So they're looking at my profile
to see what's going on.
Yeah. To see who I am and what I'm about. And is this real? And and so it's been a little bit of a marketing tool, which that's not why I'm doing it. And I never would have suspected that was something came out of it. And I have an executive coach, and she asked me last week, she goes, that seems like not a good use of your time. And she said, how many people are responding? And at that point, I had only contacted like 100 people. And I said like 20 or 30 people wrote me back. Even if they wrote back and said, I can't do it at this time, I still got a lot of responses. And she was like, whoa, that's
a great response. Yeah, that's a great response rate. And it really is a great reminder of, whether it's for Giving Tuesday or any kind of, anything that you're really trying to do, that personal touch, that outreach is wildly effective.
Yeah, I think that. And then, you can work that messaging into your personalization. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be either or.
Yeah.
You can be personal at the front end, and I'm usually personal at the back end. I hope you have a great holiday season. And I don't assume that people are going to give. And I think that's another thing that is helpful.
Yeah.
At the end, I write, thanks for considering.
Yeah.
So I don't want, because there are people in positions that, they have a sick child, they're taking care of an elderly parent, they lost their job. I don't know what their individual situation is. So I don't want to assume that they can be part of the Giving Tuesday campaign. And so I think being gentle with your words and really being intentional in the way you choose them in that email, and combining the messaging with your personalization is another thing that works.
Well, and I think that's such a great point, because for people who, I remember back a long time ago, I just had a birthday, everyone. And so I'm definitely, you start to look back and you're like, wow, how old am I? But I remember 20 plus years ago, it was before Giving Tuesday, but in thinking about giving to the foundation, I remember thinking that, I don't know if that's for me. When I was a young professional, I thought I had to donate a lot of money, or else there wasn't any place for me to give. And I really like that it's moved away from that, there, you can give at any level, you can give at any, what you're able to do, you can do. And I just think that messaging, you can't actually share that enough in my mind, just that anything is okay, especially on something like Giving Tuesday, but that it is okay. Like when you're starting out, you may not have a ton of money to be able to throw it at the foundation, but even if you give something, there is meaning in that gift.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And I just wanted to say that the young professionals came up with a $12 for 12. So they have a program to give to the foundation, where each person on their committee, each person who identifies as a young professional, I don't know what the age group is now. Is it under 40? I don't know. Anyway, has an
I'm
ability.
beyond it. That's what I
Yeah,
know.
me too. Way beyond.
For a while.
Each individual YP has an opportunity to get into that program, and they give $12 a month, which comes out to be over $100 during the course of the year. So,
Yeah.
I mean, again, it doesn't seem like it's a lot of money at the time. I mean, what's $12? Two lattes in the month from
A
Starbucks,
cocktail. Yeah.
right? One cocktail.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it adds up. And that's
Yeah.
the whole point of Giving Tuesday. I know that they start at $25, but if you only have $10, we will accept that donation.
Yeah. It will go through, everyone. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. I mean, I think that, all of these lessons that you're sharing, I love the leveraging your networks, because that's another one. Like when you mentioned that, I think that's a lesson that we can think about all the time. How often the connections that we have and the ways that we can help people or connect people or think about the ways that we can interact with them, we just don't often use that enough. And so I love that, so that you can actually think about those people that you're connected to. And to your point, there are so many other benefits to reaching out. It's not
Mhm.
just about the asking for something or even the checking in. You don't know how you might be able to help them. I mean, it could be that they're looking for exactly the sort of thing that you do. I mean, it's just, you don't know. And so I love that takeaway.
I will say that now I'm helping another 5 people find jobs.
Are you right?
Yeah,
Oh, well, this
just
is
through
what
this
I'm
outreach.
doing. Yeah.
I tried not to send to people who had open to work, because I know they're
Yeah.
not working, and I want to be sensitive to that. But I did send to a couple people who said they were looking for a new job, and I said, "How
Yeah.
can they're not in a position to give?" And I said, "How can I help?" So now I'm
Right.
helping another 5 people find jobs. Yeah, I mean it's like
Yeah.
it's part of being, I think, a good networker. This is aside from the if you can help somebody. And I think ASAE is, I like to refer to it as a please and thank you organization of helpers. I mean, most of us are
Yeah.
doing this, and we're not working for corporations, because we believe in giving back and helping people be better and building community. And we believed
Yeah.
in it a long time before it was like the vogue thing to believe in, right? You and I have been
Right.
involved in it for decades. So
Yeah.
it's like pay it forward, and
Right.
I like
Right.
to think of the association community as the bank of karma. My executive coach said, "Well, like, what do you get back for doing that?" And I was like, "You don't do it to get something back necessarily. You do it because you're like depositing in the bank of karma." Right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
eventually it comes back to you.
It's such a great That's such a great way to think about it, because I do believe that. And I do, over the years, I'll say this for those who are younger who might be listening to this, and you might be like newer to the industry. I gotta tell you, like over time, those relationships that you build, they mean so much. And like Sheri and I have known each other for years and years, decades. And
Yeah.
after so long, it is like it becomes like family, when you hear about somebody, some good thing that happens or someone passing, it's like, oh, and it doesn't even matter if you only shared a couple of drinks with them, or you ran
Mhm.
into them at a couple of conferences, or you heard them speak. Just the fact that they're a part of this tribe of people that you belong to, um, part of this family, part of this industry, it really does mean something. So investing in that,
Yeah.
putting it in the karma bank, it is a powerful way to think about it. I love that.
So, and just sharing, going a step further, I know exactly what you're talking about, KiKi, because you and I lost a colleague. We just
Yeah.
found out over the weekend.
Yeah.
And, it is a little bit like losing family. I've been very upset about it all week. So,
I'm
or
so
since I
sorry. I
heard, yeah.
know
And I'm
it's
sure you have too, because it's sort of like, it's not somebody that you see every day. It's a colleague.
Yeah,
But still, like the fact that they were taken very early, in their 50s, which to me is super young,
super young.
getting
Yeah,
younger all the time.
I
So
know.
yeah, so not to bring your whole podcast down.
No, but
But
it's like we are in talking about Giving Tuesday and thinking about the foundation. You can't
yeah,
help but think about the community that is the association community. And, especially with Sheri, the association exchange and like association chat, it's
right.
like we have obviously we really care a lot about the community and a lot about our industry friends and family and
Right.
connections. And so that investment that you make, and whether it's in time or helping somebody to find a job, or it's just making those connections, or hopefully visit
Mhm.
foundation.asaecenter.org/en/donation, and you will be able to donate and give for Giving Tuesday. um, are there other lessons, or should we
Yeah,
talk about? Okay.
there's a really important one that I think people, we're so engaged in the process, right? Even myself, right? So, I got to get new donors, got to get people to give. There's so many people I know, they should all be giving. This is a really important thing. So, one of the things that I kind of talked about at the leaders retreat last week was modeling behavior.
Hmm.
So I can't ask other people to give unless I give. And this year, ASAE came up with a matching campaign
Mm.
so in other words, if I donate $2,500, which I did, um, then for Giving Tuesday, ASAE will match it when other people are giving. So it actually almost doubles that.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So it actually, it's like that. It's like the pack where ASAE has the pack and you have a
Yeah.
matching. A lot of people pick the foundation to match with on the pack. I actually
Yeah.
picked another organization, but that's another story. So,
Another
so
episode. We'll do.
that's another episode.
Yeah.
So I feel like uh, this matching thing also allows corporations, and it's a lower match because normally matching will start at like 5,000 or something, but this is 2,500. So individuals can
Mhm.
actually do it, and it's a match. I also feel like it's super important, and like this is what I was talking about. You're into the process and you're not thinking about it. To thank people for their donations. You got to, and if I know that somebody says, when I get those messages and it says done, or I gave because you asked me to give, I immediately go back to the person and say, thank you so much. You're awesome, or whatever it is. I make sure I personally thank them. And then supposedly ASAE also thanks them. You have
Which
to, that's donor stewardship, right?
it really is. And the power of saying thank you, the power of showing that gratitude. It's so strange because I think it doesn't always, when you're the one that's thanking somebody and somebody's like, yeah, okay. It's like you don't always know if that's landing, if it's that important. But when you receive it, you do that. You're that person. You're saying, oh, yeah, no worries. No big deal, but it feels so good for somebody to say thank you, and it does, it really matters a lot for you to just go ahead and do that, extend that thanks and that gratitude, because you really don't know what went into making that decision, but it's helping, right? And it's always good to show that and extend that gratitude.
I also think another lesson, moving on to another lesson, which I think is really important, is it takes a village. That's what I titled that session that I gave at ASAE.
Mhm.
And KiKi, you and I have worked independently for a long time. And, I feel
Mhm.
like I have to do everything myself. And you can't do this by yourself. You can't
Right.
raise your membership, raise funding, increase your attendance at, association events,
Mhm.
increase your network necessarily by yourself. It takes a group of people putting in the same amount of energy that I've put in, that you've put in at various times, right? To be able to make it expand it out so that you reach that $30,000 or $40,000 goal. So it's
Yeah.
not possible to do it by yourself. And I think for me, that's always very humbling kind of realization.
It is hard, I think it's hard and it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, if we just run harder, just independently, that we can do whatever we need to do. But there's no need for it to be that way. And by the way, it's actually nice for other people to join your parade,
Mhm.
right? It's nice for
Oh, yeah.
people want to be a part of it, and it helps you to connect. And so even if you could do it, you shouldn't just do it by yourself. It should take a village, because there's a joy in having that be a group effort too.
And also, there's another thing in associations, they tend to be cyclical. So we
Mhm.
want younger people to come in and see modeling behavior from the leaders and the older people, right? The people who
Yeah.
are more senior to them, and they're going to model their behavior off of what they're observing from the leaders of the group. So whether you're an association or whether it's your staff or whether it's a volunteer group, you know, you need to model that behavior so it protects the future of association executives and the association community down the road.
It's such a great point. That's such a great point. Like, what do we want our future of the industry to look like? And what do we want our leaders to be doing? And we need to show by example, this is the behavior. This is part of that stewardship. This is part of that volunteering and giving back that is, is just sort of the way we do things, right? And that's what we want. I love that.
I don't think I have any other lessons to learn, but I would say that my experience with this committee has been much more rewarding than I ever would have thought. You know, I thought, oh, you know, I'll join the committee. And as it turned out last year, I wound up writing messaging because they didn't have messaging. And I was like, how can you ask people to go out and give money, ask for money, and you don't have messaging about what the money's supposed to be? But now this staff has provided us with some messaging and a marketing toolkit, which is really helpful. You know, but last year I wound up doing it because nobody had done it. And I was like, I can't ask committee people to go out and solicit money, and if I'm not telling them what to say. So having those messaging points are really, really important. And that is why I joined the committee. I thought that was how my Marcom experience would be used. But being able to then motivate others and being able to have this feeling that when I sent so many of these emails, I got back, I'm giving because you're asking me, was such I felt it personally. Like I felt my heart grow. You know, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Right. And I'm not saying Sheri Singer, am so great. I'm saying everyone has that ability to touch people in that way. You just might not realize it. So from a personal standpoint, even though we've doubled, you know, more than doubled the number of giving and almost doubled the number of funds raised from 2022 to 2023, the personal touch that I have felt through being able to be a part of this has just, you know, made my heart grow.
That's so beautiful. I love it. So if you're listening to this, most people end up listening to the episodes, you know, versus watching them. So Sheri put a big heart. She made a heart with her hands and put it up to the camera. So yeah, the heart. It would make your heart grow. And I can tell, like, you were so excited to get on and to like spread the message and get the word out there. For everyone to participate, but also for people to like learn from some of these lessons that you've shared so that they can be more effective in what they're trying to do with their associations. Right. So, I guess that leads to my last question, which this has been such a fun and interesting conversation. But how can associations, you've talked about this as we've been going along a little bit, but how can associations really apply some of the techniques that you've been talking about to increase membership or especially event attendance? That's a big hot topic too. Because everybody's trying to figure out, you know, how do we get people to our events? How do we increase our membership? So how can some association leaders who are listening to this right now, you know, maybe apply some of these lessons to some of these other things they're trying to do?
So that's a really good point, KiKi. Thank you for that opportunity to talk a little bit about that. So I want to share a story. I was doing some market research for an organization, and they wanted to talk to lapsed members to find out why they were lapsed. And I thought, oh gosh, we're going to have such a hard time recruiting these lapsed members. I mean, they're not, there's a reason why they're not belonging to the association. So they're not going to want to talk to us. We called, we wanted to get 6 to 8 people on. I called 10 people, all 10 people off the bat said yes, they would do it. So the first I know, we were like shocked. And then 8 of the 10 showed up on the focus group, which we did by Zoom. So I asked them, the first question is, you're a lapsed member. Why would you agree to come on and do this? I'm just curious as a market researcher. Normally lapsed members don't want to talk about why they're not joining. And they said, because you asked us. Because you made a personal plea. Nobody from the organization has ever contacted me to ask why I'm not a member. And because you asked me, and I'm not even from the organization, I'm a third party, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that ask and that personalized peer-to-peer kind of connection is
Hmm.
so missed in so many associations. And if you ask your members, sometimes we have members who really want to do stuff and we don't even know that they want to do it, right? So if you put out
Yeah.
this appeal like ASAE does with these micro volunteer opportunities, right? If you put out this appeal, listen, we have a 1 hour opportunity for you to reach out to 10 members. Let us know if you're interested in doing that. And that could be for anything. It could be for
Hmm.
fundraising. It could be annual meeting attendance. It could be Capitol Hill Day. It could be webinars, anything that you're really, oh gosh, we're lower than what we thought we'd be. We'd like to do an outreach kind of campaign. That peer-to-peer personalized outreach is amazing. And I think we think of it as antiquated. It's something we used, in the 80s and the 90s when we didn't have text, we didn't use email as much, and that kind of thing. But it works.
It really does. It's so powerful. And I mean, you can talk automation, AI, all of the things. And hey, working in marketing and communications, we know we can appreciate, we know it's all good. You've got a lot of great benefits to doing that, but it's supposed to augment, it's supposed to be on top of, it's not supposed to replace that human to human custom experience. And so, yeah, I mean, what is more powerful than somebody who is on the phone with you or talking directly to you, reaching out, and they honestly are asking, like, why did you leave, or why do you care, or what do you care the most about? How can we connect you to the best experiences in this
Yeah.
association? I often think about, and I've joined, I'm a joiner by nature.
Me too.
I want to get involved and I want to make an impact, right? So wherever I join, I want to get involved, but there's no time that I want to be more involved than right when I join. I join and I want to know who's who, how can I help, where can I make a difference? And I oftentimes feel like if you don't catch people and like try to engage with them and use that energy and give them that experience, then you might lose them. That might be your big opportunity to really, make an impact and get them hooked, get them involved where they care so much about your organization that, they are able to make an impact and help in a bigger way.
So yeah, so when Patty Montag, who was the chair last year, and she's the immediate past chair now, she's the CEO of the School Nutrition Association and a great mentor to me. And when she and I heard that there were 80 donors in 2022, we were just like, what? I mean, there's
Yeah.
like supposedly 50,000 ASE members. How could that be? And
Yeah.
we can do better than that. We just both like put our nose to the grindstone and just figured out how to do it. And I think that peer-to-peer really helped. But all the other things that we've done in the 2 years we've worked together, like expanding our networks and doing it very intentionally, what
Hmm.
communities do we need to reach out to that we can't reach out to with the 6 members of of our committee that we have now? And then, messaging, making sure we have clear and very concise messaging, and then personalizing it
Yeah.
and thanking people. That's really the secret sauce.
Yeah. Well said. And you landed that plane extremely well. Is there anything else? I will put the link right back down at the bottom for those who are watching this. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention to anyone? Any final closing thoughts? Because this has just been such a helpful and interesting conversation about both, how we can appeal to people, what really works in breaking through the noise and increasing the fundraising efforts and being more effective and just having overall better experiences in our organizations. Anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, I would just say that ASAE is a community of association
Mhm.
executives, and people are motivated by feeling like they belong. And one way to make people feel as if they belong is to be inclusive and to have these touch points, so we say, that are these personalized one-to-one interactions. And this is
Mhm.
just a really good way, not only of just, here today we're talking about raising money, but when you talk about membership, as you just mentioned, Kiki, your ability to feel like you're already part, you want that
Mhm.
immediate connection. And this kind of personalization touch point, this peer-to-peer outreach really does help people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And of course, that's why people join groups.
Yeah, it's so true. Thank you so much for joining
Yeah.
us today.
Thank
I
you for
really
having
appreciate
me and
it.
squishing
Yeah.
me in,
I love
before the
it.
end
We
of the
got
season.
you in there. We got you in. So you got your
Okay. Well,
message
everybody
out.
have a very happy Thanksgiving and a happy holiday season. And I hope that you will give to Giving Tuesday. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. And thank you, Sheri. Thanks to all of you for being a part of Association Chat this week. Listen, whatever you do, you heard Sheri say it. It's not over the first week of December. You can go all the way to the end of December if you want to. They will accept your dollars. So go give to Giving Tuesday if you care at all about our association community and making sure that those types of efforts that the foundation puts out, the great research and some of the great community and some of the things that you see on Collaborate, all of that support that goes to the ASAE community and our association community as a whole, we all benefit because of it. And then I just want to say, look, if you didn't get anything else from this, Sheri's insights gave us some extremely valuable guidance as far as how you can harness some of the magic of marketing, communications, and human to human interaction to drive growth and engagement in our associations. So remember, the key really is in building genuine connection, authentic connection, and consistently communicating your organization's value. Now, with that, as always, this is KiKi L'Italien, and I'm signing off and reminding you to keep asking questions to learn every day because the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.